This is Jonathan Aguilar here for Pro Boxing Fans. Delighted to be joined by Dmitry Salita all the way from Michigan. Dmitry, thanks for coming on and speaking to me. How's sort of the last few weeks been?
Nice to connect with you. Last few weeks have been challenging here in the United States, and definitely for people in all industries, certainly for the boxing business. For the boxing, there is some light at the end of the tunnel, seems to be like. Tonight is going to be the first boxing card coming back on air, which will be an ESPN show with Top Rank. Excited to see that. Obviously engaging in some conversations myself for the return of boxing. Hopefully in the very near future, things will get back to relative normality for us all.
As you say, is Top Rank returning with Shakur Stevenson in Las Vegas. In the UK, Eddie Hearn's talking about this Matchroom fight camp in the back garden of Matchroom HQ. Frank Warren talking about studio shows, and quite big news just announced a few days ago that Salita Promotions will be hosting shows in the Kronk Gym. How did this sort of come about?
Well, many of my fighters have been training at the Kronk Gym for many years, and I personally have a relationship with Sugar Hill and the family. And with this pandemic going on, I thought to myself, some time ago, how can we make exciting events for boxing fans, and at the same time, keep it fan free and safe, as safe as possible in the conditions. So one of the most iconic gyms in the sport of boxing is the Kronk Boxing Gym. And when you walk inside the gym, you see pictures of champions, the colors. If only walls could talk, they could tell stories of some of the best fights that ever took place inside those sparring sessions that happened in the gym. So I felt like it would be a very special and unique opportunity for boxing fans around the world to see great fights at the Kronk Gym. And I feel like, all fighters, no matter the odds of going into the fight, are going to fight much better being at the Kronk Gym. And it's a very unique and finite opportunity because, once the pandemic ends, we're going to go back to our usual venues and the usual events. But this serves as a very unique opportunity for the fighters and for the boxing fans to be able to witness something very special. And I'm very honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, such a famous gym, obviously with Emmanuel Stewart, and now Sugar Hill's sort of taken on the reins. As a gym itself, what do you remember from sort of the Kronk Gym? We know obviously the champions it's had, Lennox Lewis, Thomas Hearns, etc. What are your sort of memories from it?
Well, a lot of hard sparring, and the gym was very hot. I mean, they even had the heat on in the summertime. We're not going to do that for the fights, just a disclaimer. But the Kronk training system is very unique and very tough, and a lot of it is based on very good competitive sparring, competitive boxing. And while that happens, it's in a very hot atmosphere. So I obviously remember some being in many ring wars myself in that ring. Just thinking it through in terms of promoting it, and obviously I've gotten a tremendous amount of positive feedback from the boxing community about staging these events there, and I'm very excited about it. Also Detroit is kind of experiencing, outside of the pandemic, has been experiencing a resurgence. They had a very tough time, and the Kronk Boxing Gym is really located in the inner city of Detroit, tough neighborhood. So I feel like this is going to bring awareness and bring some good publicity to the continuance of the resurgence of the city of Detroit. So I think there's lots of different, positive energies going into this event.
Picking this back up with Dmitry Salita now in his garden. Yeah, so we're talking about sort of the Kronk Gym. You're obviously going to host some shows there. What's the time frame for when you're going to hopefully start?
We hope to do it in the midsummer, second half of the summer. It all depends on commission guidelines, which are going to be coming up later this week. And we obviously would love to get a television deal in place for boxing fans to be able to see some of what the Kronk Gym has got to offer. Many of the fighters on the card are going to be, local. Some of them. We have fighters that have been coming here from the FSU region, former Soviet Union, for years now, and they live here in Michigan and they train here. So some of those guys are kind of, Detroit is their second home. We'll put some of those guys on. It's going to be a very exciting card, and hopefully, we'll be able to do several of them.
When you mentioned broadcasters, are you hoping for just American? Are you hoping for UK? Has there been any sort of discussions?
We're well, the base is here in the United States, but yeah, definitely the UK. We've did several shows with Box Nation here. Our Showtime events have been, acquired by Box Nation. This stuff with Sky, yeah, we're definitely open to the more the merrier. We want everyone to see the fights and it's just such a scenic place. You have the Kronk Gym on top, and then you have the pictures of all these great champions. I have some ideas of inviting former champions to be in the crowd, not in the crowd, but to be somehow associated with the event. All within social distancing and those parameters. But we just want to make it an exciting event so that boxing fans can really get that atmosphere. And there's many world champions that still live in Detroit. Great fighters, those guys, those boxing fans that follow the sport of boxing and know their history, to recognize them, and I think we'll be very happy to see them. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's gonna be pretty awesome.
I've seen some comments that Sugar Hill Stewart said, he's looking forward to it as well. What conversations did you have with Sugar Hill when you sort of came up with the idea?
Sugar Hill thought it was a great idea. As he said in the release, Emmanuel Stewart has been thinking about it for a long time and had that idea. And I'm very happy that we were able to come, to come to an agreement to be able to do this. Sugar is very excited. I mean, he lives in a gym. He has a great amateur team, great professional team. One of the other things, talking about, the city of Detroit and what it means to Sugar and what it means to me, is that kids from the neighborhood, kids from the city are going to be able to see that if they train hard, if they work hard, they'll be able to one day fight on TV here at home. They won't have to go to Vegas. They won't have to go to New York. They won't have to go to wherever. And I feel that it's very encouraging to the amateur boxing program, that they're going to be able to see that there's real progress. So we want to, that's why we want to get the most exposure and kind of make it the best possible event, because I feel that, not only is it obviously great for the boxing business and for the fighters that are staying active and all that, I also feel that it encourages the youth and encourages the amateur boxers, and motivates them to stay positive, to stay off the streets, and to work hard. I'm just talking to myself because I went through the program, and when I trained in Stereo City Boxing Club, which was kind of like similar to Kronk in the inner city of Brooklyn, and I remember being training around the Zab Judas and the Shannon Briggs and the Monty Barretts and all those guys, seeing that they are gonna fight in big venues on television, that encourages you and gives you inspiration, especially on those tough days, to keep working hard and to keep pushing yourself. So I want to bring something like that to Detroit. And the Kronk Gym, I mean, probably the biggest name in boxing. I mean, in terms of gyms, I feel like Wildcard is one of them as well. Lisa's gym, but Kronk, just the history, the amount of champions that they had, and one of the things that you got to remember, and again, just talking purely boxing, like, it's, and this is not taking anything away from anybody. This is just, again, from a purely boxing point of view, to take somebody from the first day in the gym and to make them world champion, that's pretty amazing. And the Kronk Boxing Gym, vis-a-vis Tommy Hearns, Hilton McKenty, and loads of other guys, they became world champions, and many became just great fighters and not world champions. And for Emmanuel and for that training system to be able to do that over and over and over again just shows how great it is and how great the city of Detroit is in being able to produce these great fighters. So hopefully through Sugar Hill, who's worked under Emmanuel for so many years, I witnessed it. You know, obviously extremely talented, very ambitious, hardworking guy. And hopefully together we'll be able to bring some great fights to the city of Detroit.
You mentioned
Don
there
King,
about,
Don King says only in America. I'm going to say only in Detroit. I'm going to say cheers to you on this cup of coffee.
Absolutely. You mentioned sort of training with Zab Judah. I've read sort of some comments you made about training out with Floyd Mayweather, sparring with Floyd. What do you remember from those sessions? And yeah, give us an insight on what they were sort of like.
It's pretty cool that I do these interviews with ES News, and then like a week or 2 weeks later, one of the British newspapers reprints it. So it's pretty awesome. What were they like? I mean, you have to be more specific. They were obviously life memorable. And I trained with Floyd in those probably from 2002 to 2004, that period of time. So before he was obviously a star, but he wasn't a superstar that he is today. So it's pretty interesting to see the foundation and the hard work that he put in back in those days. Obviously, even prior before that, to see the success that he's gained. Actually, the first time I met Floyd was in 1996. He came to Star City Boxing Club with Zab Judah because main events was pretty big then with Lou Duva. And I feel like Floyd was either one of the training camps or he was in New York City talking to them. Anyway, but he came to visit the gym, and I followed him because I was a big boxing fan. And I followed the Olympics. He got the bronze medal. So that was the first time I met Floyd. And then when I signed with Top Rank, then I saw him in Vegas thereafter, and we kind of hooked up. So pretty cool.
What was sort of the most difficult part about sparring with Floyd, or what were you most sort of surprised about?
I mean, I wasn't surprised about anything really. I mean, because I've obviously had a lot of experience, training and sparring with different fighters. Obviously, I felt that it was a great honor to be in the ring with him, and I obviously, and I wanted to test myself some, and people getting around the ring, everybody talking smack, so. Floyd talking his bit, but what surprised me in terms of is that the 4-minute rounds, which were pretty high paced, and with 15-second break, that was challenging. I mean, like especially in the third and fourth round, but a great experience, man. Great experience. Floyd, I know, and again from experience, a lot of guys do the shoulder roll. But it's imperfect because you can, and everybody emulates Floyd because he's so great at it. People do the shoulder roll, but there's ways you get through it. But Floyd's shoulder roll is so good, and even if you don't telegraph your punches, it feels his timing and his sense of distance is superb, and he's able to really nullify many of your shots and many of your power shots. With that move, but it's not just the shoulder roll, but he's able to judge the proper distance and the positioning of his shoulder in relation to his chin and to his body and to your body. I've learned from that, and I've, prior to that and after that, sparred with many people who try to do the shoulder roll, but not even close. Floyd is by far the best at it.
How do you think he'd do as a trainer? He's obviously been in the gym we've seen with Devin Haney and some others. I think his son as well. But yeah, how would you think he would fare as a trainer?
I mean, Floyd has one of the best boxing IQs as a fighter. I think he has all the accomplishment, all the ingredients in the mind to be a great trainer. It's interesting because when he does pad work, from what I've seen, on the YouTube clips that people post with David Haney, he doesn't do it like he used to do it. He makes the fighters move around, and he doesn't do just combinations for conditioning purposes and reflexes. He actually teaches in a different way, and he holds pads, more of a fight in a fight-like scenario. Again, just purely from a boxing perspective, that type of pad work that Floyd does and that a lot of people emulate, that's great conditioning, in my opinion. But it doesn't teach boxing basics, and it's for conditioning, it's for reflexes, but the other kind of pad work, the pad work that you see Floyd doing with David Haney, that's really what you learn, and in my opinion, much more beneficial in terms of getting better at the actual boxing. The other stuff is once when you know what you're doing, it's kind of like hitting the speed bag. It's just conditioning and reflexes. But the kind of pad work that Floyd has been doing with David Haney and Sugar Hill, and actually many trainers, Freddie Roach, when they move around the ring and there's certain types of ways that they want fighters to act in certain situations, that's more effective for actual teaching of boxing, and that's what seems like Floyd is teaching David Haney boxing. So it's pretty great to see.
Okay, let's talk a bit about your stable. Let's start with Otto Wallin. He was obviously supposed to face Lucas Brown back in February or March time. What's the plan with Otto? His profile's gone quite big since obviously he had that fight with Tyson Fury. What is the plan for Otto?
Well, Otto's been back to the gym for about 10 days now. He got the coronavirus, then he injured his foot. Now he's back to training. The gym's opening up a little bit. So we hope to have him back in the ring by late summer. It's obviously all in line with his recovery process. He's training with Joey Gamache in New York City, someone that he's been with for many, many years. And as you mentioned, they devised a great plan that they implemented with Tyson Fury. I was actually talking with Sugar yesterday. It'd be pretty interesting for me if they have a rematch, because I'm friends with Sugar. Otto's my fighter, and if Sugar now takes training Tyson Fury, so it'll be pretty cool atmosphere to be in.
Is that something you guys would push for? I mean, he's obviously got the third fight with Wilder's, talk of Joshua, Dillian White. Do you see that happening?
Possibly. Boxing is a very unpredictable environment, and things happen all the time in terms of injuries and fighters winning and fighters losing. So it's very unpredictable. I feel like these plans sound great and should happen, and I think it's great for boxing, the rematch and fight with Anthony Joshua. But there's, as they say, a lot of space between the cup and the lip in that situation, And I think that Otto just has to stay active, be impressive, keep winning. He's going to keep getting better. He's young, and he's still young on that level. And I feel that Otto's going to show that he's one of the best heavyweights in the world. Really pretty awesome, actually, just in terms of just like human accomplishment. He's from a small town in Sweden that obviously doesn't have any boxing, and he believed in himself. He worked hard, and now he's, years later, on a big stage in Las Vegas, fighting Tyson Fury, the best heavyweight in the world, and gave him the best fight of all time, landing the most punches that anybody's ever landed against Tyson. And now it's on the tip of all the boxing fans, mouth in terms of, being a top contender. So it's pretty awesome. And, Otto did great for himself, and really is an inspiration, I feel, to folks around the world in what can be accomplished with hard work and a dream.
Definitely. Let's talk a bit about Claressa Shields. I spoke to her in London a few months ago, and we spoke a lot about Laila Ali. Claressa wants to face her. She wants Laila Ali to come out of retirement. Has there been any sort of talks, even preliminary talks, between yourselves and Laila?
Let me say this. I don't know if Claressa wants her to come out of retirement. Claressa just, Laila Ali just opened, just talked about it and talked about fighting Claressa. So as a follow-up, if you talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And so, Laila Ali is a very accomplished athlete, obviously very accomplished lady all around, and did great things for the sport of boxing, and and obviously the daughter of one of the greatest athletes of all time. So she can stay retired, and it's great, and fine. And that's probably what should happen. However, she's just been talking so much about fighting Claressa and how she's superior to Claressa, and just feeding the hype and feeding the hype. So what's the point to that? You know, there's a million ways to say no, and there's only one way to say yes. So Laila Ali, behind the scenes, has not been willing to participate in any kind of real discussions, and that's why Claressa and I think I got on the record saying that it's just for media. Although there's a lot of interest from boxing fans and from regular folks, but she hasn't really, made any real indication that she's serious about this fight in any way. It's just to get media to stay relevant, to do whatever you got to do. But so that's what Claressa. I mean, and I understand Claressa. That's what Claressa is sensitive about. It's okay. So just live your life. You're great at what you did, and whatever. But it takes it to another level when she brings Claressa into the conversation, and and start shadowboxing on the radio station, saying how she's gonna knock her out. That's that's taking it to another level. So she's fueling speculation, but there's nothing there.
I mean, Claressa's achieved so much, even in such a short space of time. The quickest person to win, three-weight, become a three-weight world champion. What's the plan for Claressa? Obviously, she did have a fight penciled in before all of this happened. What is sort of the plan? Could she even feature in this behind closed doors in Michigan?
Claressa is on par to fight Marie Dicaire for the undisputed junior middleweight world title. That fight is still a go. Obviously, with all the regulations and all the stuff easing up, we're just trying to figure out when and where we can schedule it. But that fight is going to happen next for Claressa. Hopefully sooner than later. And again, a lot of it is outside of my control, outside of everybody's control, really. But that's the plan. Claressa has made her story by winning 3 division world titles faster than anybody, by being the undisputed middleweight world champion. Really, I feel that Claressa has lifted up women's sports and women's boxing to the next level. It's only after she fought a second professional fight as a main event on Showtime, first woman in the history of the sport. And after that, Cecilia Brækhus fought on HBO, and other, very good and talented female. Because of Claressa, I feel like their pay grade has increased, the exposure for women's boxing has increased because of Claressa's, Claressa is very competitive, but at the same time, she's also very outspoken in a good way for all women fighters, for all women's sports, for equality. So that's really the beautiful thing. And, and Claressa has really done a tremendous job, kept to the next level.
Picking this back up with Dmitry Salita, a few connection issues. So we were talking a bit about Claressa Shields and her plan. So she's going to go for the undisputed in light middleweight, 154?
Yes, correct. Fighting against undefeated IBF world champion, Marie Dicaire of Canada. Pretty excited about that fight. On my YouTube channel on May 9th, which was when the fight was originally scheduled to take place, we had both fighters give live interviews. And Marie, we have highlight clips of her career. She's pretty, she's pretty focused and pretty confident and pretty skilled and looks pretty big for the weight. So I think it's going to be a really good fight. I actually think it's going to be one of the most competitive fights of Claressa's career. I look forward to it.
I mean, three-weight world champion going for another undisputed championship. I mean, how many weight divisions do you believe Claressa's capable of winning in?
Well, while she's still young, she and we've again made offers to Cecilia Brækhus, another great champion who's been talking a lot but hasn't really backed up any of it. And Claressa was even willing to come down to 147 to fight her, but then Cecilia, just went radio silent, as they say. No real interest in fighting Claressa, and I feel like, two giants like Claressa and Cecilia, coming together for a big fight. It's kind of, Claressa understands that her participating in these big fights is bigger than her. It's bigger than boxing. It's a movement, and she's building history and building the industry in a way. And it takes the best to fight the best. When I first started working with Claressa, her instruction to me was make the biggest and the best fights. And you see from her fighting Franchon Cruz in her pro debut, and then from there on after fighting for a world title in a full professional fight, and Hannah Gabriel's and all. I mean, just look at the roster. There's no men that have such a rich roster of fighters so early in their career. Claressa understands the responsibility that she has to the sport of boxing and to history to make the biggest and the best fights. And we're fortunate to do the big fight with Christina Hammer for the undisputed middleweight title, now we're doing one at junior middleweight with Marie Dekari and Cecilia Breckhus. That would be tremendous. That'd be huge. And what a boost for women's sports and for women's boxing. But again, the ball is in Cecilia's court to make that fight.
One other person that you represent that I saw in the same gym with Claressa was Hannah Rankin. Former IBO world champion. What's the plan with Hannah going forward?
Hannah, by the way, great fighter, great person. I mean, she's awesome. So as the pandemic eases, and travel restrictions ease, we want to get back in the ring and would like for her to fight in the United States. I think there's some big fights out there for her. She actually came to Claressa's training camp for her fight in September. In September, sometime last year, to Claressa's training camp, and she boxed with Claressa, and and she trained and she hit the pads, and I just see how much better she's gotten as a fighter. So her coach has done a great job with her, and she's going to keep getting better. She's just so focused, and in the ring doesn't take no for an answer. Wants to keep getting better, working on herself. I think that she's going to have some real opportunities. As things ease up, she's going to have some real opportunities in the ring.
Coming on to Jarrell Miller, he signed a promotional deal with Top Rank. So what's the situation? Is that a co-promotional deal with yourselves as well?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, what is sort of the plan with Jarrell? He's obviously been out of the ring for a long time. There's talk of, I've seen sort of a July return. Is there any sort of truth in that?
Yeah, we're in discussions, and there is truth to that. Hopefully that'll be a possibility that will happen.
Mm-hmm. What sort of opponents would you match him up with? Have there been sort of discussions on, which caliber of heavyweights he could go into after quite a long layoff?
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. It's been a long layoff, and just getting back in the gym. The gyms in New York City just opened up, I mean, and obviously with travel restrictions and all the other things happening, we have to see what's available. The best, with all those ingredients, the best available fighter that makes sense, and we'll make the decision from there.
I mean, it's been a long time since everything that happened before the proposed Anthony Joshua fight in New York. When you sort of think back to that period, what's like the overriding emotion you have? Is it sort of disappointment, regret? Is it settled in?
I was actually talking to somebody about it yesterday. I feel that Jarrell, on that night had all the tools physically and mentally to beat Anthony Joshua. It just wasn't meant to be, nothing you could do about it. You just got to turn the page and move forward. And it's quite possible that the opportunity may reemerge itself again sometime down the line. And all you can do is stay positive and stay constructive on what needs to be done today and focus on the future. Being at that press conference at Madison Square Garden announcing the fight, I've noticed Jarrell as a professional in the second pro fight, which he fought on one of my shows. And which was like, I don't know, 10, 15 blocks away from Madison Square Garden. And when I saw him, I said, Jarrell, man, you're the next heavyweight champion of the world, And really the first fighter that I really started to work with as a promoter. One of the first. And, it kind of hit me being at the garden, at the big, the big garden, and him fighting 6 or 7 years prior to that at Roseland Ballroom, and just having all that accumulate to a unified heavyweight world title at the Garden was pretty awesome. But we almost got there. I think that Jarrell has the talent, the personality, all the ingredients to be a real big star in the heavyweight division in boxing, and he got to make it happen.
What is your relationship with Jarrell? You've obviously stuck by him during these tough times when I guess you could have walked away at any point. But yeah, has that made your sort of relationship stronger?
Our relationship is, we've had a relationship for a very long time, and it's gone through its ups and downs. But I'm very happy we were able to do the deal with Top Rank and with ESPN, and I feel it's a great platform for Jarrell. With the reach that ESPN has, and with Jarrell's personality and his gifted gap and the ability to promote himself and fights that he's in. Can you imagine him and Tyson Fury? That'll be like, I feel like the lead up, the fight cannot possibly be as good as the lead up between those two guys. That would be pretty awesome.
I mean, before we get on to sort of possible fights, because as you mentioned, Tyson Fury, there's other fights that I'm sure the fans would love to see, not just for the fight, the build-up as well. As you mentioned, Jarrell's a big talker, entertaining. But I mean, obviously, as you know, there'll be some fans who will be wary of sort of what happened, the situation. Jarrell said his piece, he served his time, but there will be some fans who will be unsure about his return. What do you sort of say to those fans?
I mean, Jarrell's going to get tested, in the strictest way leading up to these fights. I mean, there's nothing to say. I mean, great thing about sports and why we've been missing it so much is because we all have our opinions, we all have our feelings about athletes, about teams, and that's what makes it so wonderful. It's people are free to express themselves without concern, and some of it is based on things that happen, and you just have to get in the ring, be clean, perform, win, and the rest will take care of itself, or it won't, or that's just part of sports, part of life is that people have opinions, people talk, and that's what makes it, that's what makes it what it is. So there's nothing really to say,
Mapping out Jarrell's return, as you say, he's had quite a long layoff. What is sort of the path to Tyson Fury, shall we say? Is there sort of a set number of fighters or particular names that Jarrell... Is there a name that Jarrell consistently wants to face? Is it Joshua? Is it White? Is it... what sort of, his feelings?
Well, I think Jarrell wants to fight the best fighters available. He's at the thing in his peak, or approaching his peak. And obviously with, it's a bit of a divided world with these different platforms and networks and fighters being aligned to them. So while some fights may be ideal to make for the boxing fan, they're very difficult to do because there's so many, because of the divided world with, with networks and platforms and stuff like that. So they may be more challenging. But if it's big enough, I feel like, and if fighters keep winning and doing their thing, and there's desire from both sides, then the fight will happen. So there's all these big names that you mentioned floating around, and you just need to be impressive and keep winning. And Jarrell is not short of words, so he'll make himself known. He'll make it known who he wants to fight in a very loud way. And I think that his performances in the ring should be impressive for boxing fans to demand it. So that's what we hope for, and that's what the plan is.
As his promoter, do you believe that he will become world champion and get his shot within, say, the next few years?
Well, a few years is actually a long time. I think that he's one of the best fighters, heavyweight fighters in the world. And I think that he has all the skills and the personality and the background to be a big star in the sports world, not just in boxing, but in the sports world. But he just has to get in the ring and perform and take care of business. And I think that he will, and I think that he can.
Okay, well, Dmitry, I appreciate you giving me this time today, and look forward to hearing when boxing returns in the Kronk Gym.
Thanks, man. Thanks for connecting, and I'll see you guys soon.
Appreciate it, Dmitry. Take care.